Hi, I'm Bob McLean. Thanks for dropping by my cybersecurity channel. I want to get right into vulnerabilities, specifically the RDP vulnerability. I believe it's also called the Bluekeep vulnerability. And why do I want to get into that? In Q4, despite patches having been published months prior, in Q4, the RDP vulnerability was the most commonly used attack vector into ransomware victim environments. Does that mean fire the IT team? No, it does not. The RDP compromise, well, let's get into RDP. And I'm going to try to keep it at a high level. It's a little technical. RDP is a function of the operating system wherein you can have one computer remotely take over the desktop of another. So keyboard and screen. This is great because it revolutionized remote support, or actually it enabled remote support. So you have a remote user like your help desk logging into the machine of a user experiencing trouble and being able to resolve that without ever leaving the help desk. It enables remote support from a distributed team, which is great. However, in certain implementations of the Windows operating system, there is a bug that gets triggered when it receives a specifically deformed string of RDP packets. And what happens is that that string gives the remote attacker the ability to execute code on the victim machine. This is how your foothold, or their foothold, gets established in your environment. So this is critical. The remote code execution ability or vulnerabilities are the most severe and have to be dealt with because they are the keys to the kingdom. You're leaving your keys in the car. I'll think of a bunch of euphemisms or analogies when I'm done, but it's bad. So when this was discovered, patches were released, but evidence suggests that patches aren't being applied because it was the most commonly used attack vector into victim environments. Why? Now you could say your team isn't doing its job, but I doubt that's it. Everyone could be overwhelmed because vulnerabilities pile on almost every day. I mean, there are thousands every quarter. So one of it might have been getting lost in the sauce, but the other probable condition is the fact that a legacy application could be running that requires that, the earlier versions of the operating system, which up till now has not been a problem because you have a stable application running a good part of your business. You have a virtual server running at the the optimal version for that application, and everything's going great. And upgrading that code by applying a patch can break the application. This is a common trap that IT people get stuck in. Legacy apps have to maintain things as they are or they break. But because they're running and stable and supporting a good part of your business, no one fights for the budget to rebuild that application or to buy the upgrade of the application, replace it if the vendor is not viable anymore. A number of reasons. And through nobody's fault, you now have a system that's facing the internet that's vulnerable to a remote code execution vulnerability. So what to do? Obviously, get your team together and try to get the patches implemented because they're free and that's the quickest fix. configure your environment to require, especially the RDP servers that are open to the internet, to require network level authentication. Implement rules in your firewalls. Disable remote desktop services if you can on those machines. There are a number of steps that can be taken to mitigate the exposure. The best way is apply the patches. But I have a lot of experience in IT, and that's usually never a simple thing. So without taking it out on the team, because they probably are aware, make it a priority to get your RDP vulnerability shored up and fixed. It is the most commonly exploited vector, so if you can do it that way, that's optimal. I hope you find this interesting, and I hope it helps. Apply those patches. And the other thing I'm just going to say about patches before I jump off here, a tool that can look at your inventory, look at your digital assets, and tell you of the thousands of vulnerabilities that are published, which ones apply to your environment specifically, instead of having to sort through the haystack to find the needle. A tool like that earns its keep in situations like this. I'm going to talk more about the configuration management database and the vulnerability scanners in another video, but see if you can get those patches applied by your teams. Thanks, and in the next one we'll talk about email.